ever gone up against Ad Mech and thought, wow, I just have no idea what any of this stuff does. My opponent is using all these abilities and rolling all these dice, and I'm just getting overwhelmed. If this has ever disheartened you, or you've made bad decisions in a game against Ad Mech and it's cost you the game, then this is the video for you. This is How to Beat Ad Mech. Now, I could waste your time telling you every in and out about Ad Mech, but the truth is you don't need to know every little thing about Ad Mech to find success against them. You only need to focus on a few key things. So, let's get right into what they are. The first thing you need to know against Ad Mech is that they're slow, have generally bad saves, have low wounds, and low toughness. Sounds like they'd be pretty easy to beat on their own. The catch is, they use a bunch of different abilities and buffs to bring these underwhelming units into offensive or defensive all-stars. The key catch here is that their defensive buffs can only go on a select few units each turn. This leaves the rest of their army fragile and open to being exploited. Your number one priority against Ad Mech needs to be ignoring the units with the strong defensive buffs and hitting the units without the defensive buffs to take advantage of their weaker stats. Next, be confident going into the game knowing that Ad Mech secondaries aren't that good. This means that if you have passive secondaries, you're going to be at an advantage against Ad Mech most of the time. Additionally, they give you one great secondary against them: no prisoners. Now, putting this together, what this means is that Ad Mech is going to have to spend the game destroying your models to score most of their points. And in some cases, their secondary requires that you get to choose which objective they get to hold to score their points. If you can start removing their units without the defensive buffs, and then sparingly engage with them, you'll start coming out ahead as Ad Mech's ability to hurt you decreases. So, if you can hold on to a decent primary score and a strong secondary score, you'll be able to find success against Ad Mech as they slowly trudge up the table at you, unable to score any of their points from removing your models. Also, be aware of some of the tricks that Ad Mech wants to use against you. The most important of these involves the Cerberus Raiders. These are the cowboy-looking guys on the mechanical horses. Their main ability is to run away when you declare a charge against them. It's even more annoying when you consider the fact that where those riders ended was blocking your movement, preventing your models from moving forward in your intended direction. How you deal with this is in deployment. Make sure there are multiple avenues that your army can go, so it's less likely they put all of those Cerberus Raiders in your way. The other trick they sometimes use is to teleport a big 20-man unit of Rangers right in front of you, and then shoot 80 Strength 4, -2, 1 damage shots into all your fragile units. How we defend against this is using our forward deploying units, if we have them, to place them where Ad Mech would want to teleport that unit. If you don't have these units that forward deploy, try to use your turn 1 movement to get any kind of unit in the way to prevent that from happening. Now, if your army has access to it, mortal wounds are great against Ad Mech. What you generally want to do with them is take all of your mortal wound output and put it into one unit at a time. As you start to remove Ad Mech's units, you'll find out that their offensive power decreases dramatically, as they require multiple activations of several different units to start tearing your units apart. Likewise, if they let you get to their characters, take the opportunity to get rid of them. Most of Ad Mech's buffs come directly from their characters, and for each one you remove, you'll remove a substantial amount of firepower or defensive ability from their army. Now, this doesn't mean that you should overexpose yourself to do it, but if your Ad Mech opponent wants to give you the opportunity, you should take it nearly every time. And lastly, some general don'ts when playing against Ad Mech. Don't expose yourself against Ad Mech. They do have enough firepower to cripple your army with one turn of shooting if they get to shoot everything. While their ranged firepower is impressive, don't be afraid of their melee. It's fair, but it's also not incredibly strong or incredibly fast like something like orcs or world eaters. Instead, rest assured in the knowledge that their melee will have a hard time getting rid of your tougher elite units. Now, they will slice and dice their way through your weaker units, but you can play around that since they're not as fast. Next, don't take Assassinate. While we're going to take the opportunity to kill their characters if they let us, we're not going to make our game plan around that. In fact, it's actually harder to kill their characters or see the opportunities where you can kill them if your opponent knows they can deny you points by hiding them. And the final don't. Don't get into a trading war with Ad Mech. They have between 70 and 80 cheap objective secured bodies that they can force in one direction to guarantee they can choose to hold an objective of their choice. And since their 5-min units are so cheap and also are objective secured, they can continually put out smaller cheap units on the middle, and every time you go to kill them, you'll lose more points than they will. If you learn these tips and use them to influence your decisions during a game against Ad Mech will slowly start to seem not like a confusing matchup of rules, abilities, and hordes of models, and more like a checklist of objectives to send them back to the scrap heap where they belong. If this video helps you, don't forget to let me know in the comments below and to like this video. If you're looking forward to seeing how to beat the other factions of the game, go ahead and subscribe, as videos like this for beating every faction as well as tips for playing every faction will be coming out in the near future. And until then, thanks for rolling some dice with Rice.